Welcome back to another episode of the Business Hour. I'm sitting here with Asanka Brendon Ratnayake. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
So Asanka is a photojournalist. Asanka, do you want to tell everyone who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a photojournalist. So for those of you that don't know what a photojournalist is, essentially it's I'm a journalist that takes photos instead of writing. That's very simplistic, but that's essentially what it is. I work on freelance. I'm a freelancer, so I work on freelance assignment with the likes of the New York Times, Agence France Presse, Associated Press, Washington Post, and a number of other outlets and publications. And yeah, that's in a nutshell sort of what I do. Yeah.
And the reason I brought Asanka onto the show is because I want to get his story, and it's an interesting story about how he went all in. So Asanka, if you want to take us back to before your photography career started and your university days and talk us through that.
Yeah, sure. So it started, I guess, for me, once I finished school, I went to uni, I was studying commerce, dropped out not because I couldn't do it, I just had no interest in it. Stupidly, I went back to university and I studied something to do with computers. Like, to this day, I still don't know what it was. It was just like a complete and utter waste of time. Dropped out of that as well. So I've dropped out twice. And this university thing is obviously not working out. Like I need to find something else. Funnily enough, I fell into a job in the music business, which is quite random, but I love music, and I thought, well, this is amazing. Like, how often does something like this come up? So I thought, all right, I'm going to jump at it and go for it. And that was great. I learned a lot. I had opportunity to work with some great people, and I developed a lot of skills in terms of like people management and problem solving and whatever else, but that didn't work out. So now I've failed at like 3 things, right? I'm about 22, lost, completely, utterly lost, and I'm pretty much an adult. Well, I'm an adult. I'm 22, right? I would like, my parents aren't paying for anything. I've got to look after myself. I've got to get my shit together, right? So I took any job I could get at that point. And I worked at a call center for a telecommunications company, inbound call center, and that was sort of like the real. So look, I'm not putting that job down. I'm not putting the organization down. I'm not putting people who do that job down. Not at all. 100% not, because it is a really hard job. But for me, I just didn't. There was no motivation. I could have been really good at that job if I really wanted to, but I just didn't want to. So I did the bare minimum so I could just keep my job.
Yep.
But that wasn't going to last for long, and it didn't. So I was about maybe 6 months in, and I sort of had this, I don't know what you call it, but I just like, I got to get my shit together. I got to find something that drives me. Because I knew there was something I was capable of doing. I didn't know what it was. Yeah, so then I think when you hit rock bottom, you analyze things totally transparently, right? You sort of go, because it can't get much worse than this. It maybe could, but at that point for me it was, what would drive me to do something in another career path or whatever that could utilize my skills, which at this point I still didn't know what my skills were because I'd never really succeeded at anything. So I looked at my weaknesses. I was like, all right, well, what has held me back my whole life? And it's like, I have a short attention span. I'm restless. And by this point, I've realized that if I'm not interested in something, I'm not going to do a good job at it. And so I put all those things together, and I'm like, well, I took it back even further, and I was like, well, what did I enjoy in school? I loved history. I loved international studies. Before I could read, I was looking at newspapers. I loved the news. I love journalism. I love, like long form journalism. Shows like Foreign Correspondent, 60 Minutes when it was good. Shows like that, right? Like during the 90s, 60 Minutes was really, really good. I was like, man, that would be a cool environment to sort of work in. So then I took that step further. I was like, all right, well, what area of journalism could I pursue? I didn't feel I had the skills to be a good writer. So I was like, well, okay, that's not gonna work. What's left? I didn't even know the job of a photojournalist existed until when I was in school. We had to read a book, and the main protagonist in that book was a photojournalist. I thought, oh, that's a pretty cool job. Like, you can travel around, you get to cover big news stories and whatever else, and I could see myself doing that. Problem was, I didn't know how to use a camera. I didn't know anything about photography.
So you got caught with the romance of the...
Pretty much, yeah. I
Photo
got caught up in the romanticism
Okay.
of the idea of a photojournalist.
So you just wanted to travel and take some photos.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I thought, all right, cool. Well, if I'm going to do this, I can't stuff up again.
Yep.
I've got to go all in. I've got to dedicate all my energy towards this, and not just energy, resources, which I didn't have. I had no money. I had like nothing, right? So, but I thought, nah, I'm 20. I can still afford to fail again, right? Like, worst case, this just won't work out. But I'll still be living. I can still live with my parents as much as I don't want to. It's like, I love my parents, but you don't want to be there forever. And I just felt like, all right, this is my chance. I think this might work. And so I'm like, all right, cool. If you're gonna do it right. So again, I had no idea about photography, so I got to learn that. So I studied that for 2 years, and finished that, and then went overseas, and the journey began. Yeah.
So when you said the journey began, so at some point you bought a camera.
Yeah, at some point, yeah. At the start, when I did this course, I had to buy a camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, did you have an assignment or a job or something in mind when you booked that ticket, or did you just...
No, so what happened was, so I had a choice. I could stay in Australia and try and... So traditionally, the way it works is you work at the local paper, or you're a cub reporter at one of the big metropolitan mastheads or whatever. But the local news didn't appeal to me. And again, like, I don't know, maybe I was... Because when you're young, you think really big, right? You dream big. You're like, oh no, I don't want to cover that. I want to cover the big news stories. I want to... And in my head as well, I was like, I know the people I want to work with. It was the big foreign news agencies, big foreign publications that I wanted to work with. I wanted to share a local story to an international audience. That was like what because that's all the stuff I would read and watch on TV was people doing that. Foreign correspondents in all corners of the world sharing a story for an international audience. And that's what I wanted to be a part of. So I thought, well, it's pointless. If I stay here, I'm going to have to, and there's nothing wrong with this, but I'll be working at, say, a local paper covering, the grandmother who got a wheelie bin stolen, or the car crashed down the road. And there's nothing wrong. Like, I'm not putting that down at all. But for me, it was like, I need to sort of fast track this a little bit.
Yeah.
And to work with the clients I want to work with. That won't really get me there quick enough.
So so you booked a ticket, you went...
Yeah, so what I did was I went to Sri Lanka, because I'm of Sri Lankan descent, and I'm very familiar with the politics there. And not just that, it was the war had just finished, and it was the first election post-war. So it was a big international news story.
Okay.
And I felt, well, all right, if I'm there during this election, then maybe I can email agencies or small clients or whatever, and say, hey, I'm here. Just so you know, I'm here. I'd love to do some work with you, blah, blah, blah. As well as that, I was like, well, there's all these other papers in this country who will be covering this. So I went cold calling to all of the big newspapers in the country I went to. And then they all said, yeah, we'd love to have you on board. But again, I had that same issue where they're like, well, you're not going to cover an election. You're an absolute nobody with no experience. Why the hell would we get you to cover this election? But then there was one newspaper that said, we would love to have you on board. You've come at the right time, and we want you to cover the election. Catch was, at the time, this was arguably the most dangerous newspaper in the world to work at. And, I mean, look, the newspaper was called the Sunday Leader. If you Google that around the period of, say, 2009 to 2011, you'll see what I mean. I don't want to. I could do another podcast.
Give us a 30-second version because that's really interesting.
Look, I don't want to sort of dramatize it because it's actually quite sad. But like because I was in the country the year before I approached them, and the founding editor of that newspaper, he was murdered on his way to work, and that newspaper was constantly under threat. The news presses were firebombed. I'll never forget my first day at that newspaper. I was in really high spirits. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. First time in a newsroom. This is really exciting, and I had been there the day before, a couple of days before, because I was to sell myself. And everyone was quite chirpy and whatever. And then the day I started, everyone was quite down. And then I realized, and I went to the editor, and I'm like, why is everyone down? She said, oh no, we got another death threat. Everyone got another death threat. Like, just blasé about it, but that was the reality. This happened so often that it was just like, that's their sort of coping mechanism. It's just yeah.
So how many newspapers, just a rough number, did you approach?
Would have been about 4, and this would have been the 5th that gave me, and that was the last newspaper that I spoke to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you approached the major ones, didn't get a response. You got one from the most dangerous one.
Yeah. And
you took that.
Yeah.
So you're like an adrenaline junkie with a camera. That's what you're telling me.
No, like, people think that, and maybe it might look like that, but no, like, not necessarily. I just knew that the stories I wanted to cover there was that risk involved, and it wasn't like I need to do the riskier stuff.
Yeah,
it was just those are the stories that I knew, because at this point, again, coming back to me wanting to work with the international press, it was like I need to cover international stories.
Yeah, and
in this case, the international stories were quite risky.
That's really, like, from an outsider, that seems completely nuts. That's like to chase your passion that hard that you're willing to put your dream job ahead of your own safety, knowing the risks and going in eyes wide open. Do you ever look back and think?
Yeah, like I think the naivete of youth is a good and a bad thing, because I was young, I was so ambitious, I didn't care. Not to say like I just there's something bad happening, I'm just going to run into it. No, not that at all. But I was just so determined. It didn't stop me. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely commendable that someone would chase their passion that hard. Tell me about some of the sacrifices you've had to make living the lifestyle that you've got. Because from what I imagine, you can literally get a phone call and you have to board the plane in a few hours.
Yeah, it's something like that. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen like that. So a recent example of that was when I had to cover the Easter Sunday attacks in Sri Lanka that happened in April this year. I'll never forget that day because I had a free week, and I had to plan. I was like, oh man, I'm an avid golfer, so I'm like, I'm going to play golf. I'm going to organize some rounds because I haven't played for a while. Organize a few rounds. And then at I think it was about 1 o'clock local time, Melbourne time, I get all these notifications on my phone. Bombing Sri Lanka, what the hell's going on? Because that was just not totally unexpected, because obviously the war's finished and all that. So that was at 1 o'clock. I booked a flight at about 4 o'clock. So I've gone from booking golf rounds to booking a flight to cover events that happened in Sri Lanka. So I don't have structure to my life. Like, you try really, really hard to, but especially as a freelancer, it's really hard to have structure, because I don't have like Monday to Friday 9 to 5. It's Monday I'm waking up at 4 o'clock. Tuesday I'm starting a job at like 8 p.m. It's all over the place, and everything's and the nature of news is obviously you don't know, you know what's going to happen, So that's one. But in terms of sort of other sacrifices, I mean, there's heaps in terms of. I mean, that all impacts obviously your personal life as well.
Relationships.
Yeah, like, and for me, because I was so driven and determined, and I wanted to make this work, and before, like, I always look back at all the things I've had to sacrifice from the early days. I'm like, man, I've sacrificed too much to not put this career path my priority. And people will judge me and go, oh, well, there's more important things to work and all this. But it's like, man, you don't understand. Like, I've put literally everything, every coin I had, I put it towards this. So if I missed out on going on trips with friends and, like overseas trips with friends, whatever it may be, because I could have, but I knew if I had to, with that little money I had at the early stages of my career, I had to invest that in my own development or my equipment or whatever it may be.
Yep.
So that was and I don't regret it one bit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like, it's affected things like, I mean, not being able to put certain people in your life as a priority, it hurts, but I knew it for me and this goal that I had, it was what I had to do. And
I think it's hard as well when you're chasing your dreams so hard. You put that, and you've sometimes got blinkers on. That example you gave of, you're preparing to play some rounds of golf. If golf was your passion, you would have played golf instead of You know what I mean? So everyone, some people prefer to go out on a Friday night, or a Thursday night, and we're sitting here recording a podcast.
That's it.
It depends on what you're trying to achieve as well.
Exactly.
So I hear it.
Yeah.
I hear it.
And I find that a lot of people sometimes because I do get a lot of people who ask me about, because they themselves have sort of hit a point where it's like a low point in their career, or they've been made redundant and they're thinking, oh, outside the box, they're like, oh, maybe I could pursue a totally different career path or whatever it may be. And they, not that I'm like a career counselor or advisor or anything like that, life coach or anything like that. But they're like, how can I do whatever? Do you have any tips? And the first thing I ask is like, firstly, how determined are you, and how much are you willing to sacrifice in terms of your lifestyle?
Yeah.
Because that's a big one, right? Because a lot of people will be accustomed to certain lifestyle because they've had employment and they earn X amount of dollars, and that's like that. Yeah. So it's like, are you willing to drop down a couple of things?
Yeah.
Are you willing not to go on those big, 4-week trips overseas to Europe, or eat out every second night? Are you willing to sacrifice all that? Are you willing to sell your car and drive a crappy car? Like these are the real questions.
Yep.
And a lot of people sort of at that point, they're like, yeah, I am, but it's one of those things. It's like, yes, I am, or
you're not really.
Not really. Like, I like the idea of doing something different, but I'm accustomed to this comfort, which is fine. I get it. I totally get it. But that's what's required.
It's one of the. It's like what you said before about you're willing to fail again and move back with your parents if you had to. If you're all in, you're all in. You're not half in.
Yeah, you can't.
You have to.
I mean, look, there's certain things maybe where you like, side hustle's the new thing now, right?
Yep.
So you can. It's not to say you can't, but there's certain, I think, careers now, like say in my line of work, it's like clients will only give me work if they know I'm dedicated to it and dedicated to the job. They're not going to give work to a guy who's like, oh,
I got golf this weekend.
Or like, oh, sorry man, I can't because I'm working at this other job in this other totally different field or whatever, and I can't fit it in, and I've got no. They don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear that.